Happy Labor Day and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and folks, what a weekend. I mean, what have you been playing? Well, you're going to see on the screen. I got over. Well, here is 2 hours worth of footage of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 beta. Your boy, the old man, still got it. My last match before when I hit level 20, I got 30 kills, which is pretty freaking good for an old man who hasn't played Call of Duty in a long time. Got MVP a couple of times. Got top three times, which is I'm super proud of this because I have not played Call of Duty in a long time, and the movement, oh my god, it's so fast and it's fun. We're gonna get into it. We're also gonna talk about some official Concord sales numbers. And I mean, yikes. I just pulled up the Steam numbers and we're gonna go over those. And folks, that game is it's dead. I can't see it getting fixed in any way anytime soon. And unfortunately, they're gonna let the servers be what they are. And then it's just gonna end up dying. Of course, Astrobots, which someone just said in the chat, is gonna hopefully be a win for the PlayStation Nation, which it should be. I cannot wait. My controller hasn't shipped as of yet, but I know that they took the money, so my controller is going to be on the way. I'm super stoked for Astrobot, but that's of course because I am a big old nerd and I like platformers. But we got a couple of games to get into. Obviously, we're going to talk about Stalker 2. There was some minced words with the developer where, obviously his first language is in English, and he clarified that on the Series S, the potato, it's running at 35 frames per second in performance mode, which is really good. And they still have a lot of optimization to go. So, be excited. That game showed really, really well at Gamescom. Listen, we're going to get into that and break that down. But the big conversation, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be, of course, Call of Duty. We got some thoughts. We got some theories. Hey, Steel Rain, you put some work into it. How you feeling, brother? Welcome.
Well, Mr. BoomStick XL and Fuzzy Belvedere is in the building on a Monday. It's Labor Day. We got these beautiful people in chat filing in and looking y'all just looking good, man. Maybe I should invite y'all to my my No Diddy 6 party. No. Let me stop.
Are you talking about the No Diddy Meatbag 6 party?
Yes. Of course, man. Yeah, man. It's gonna be interesting time today. We got some things to talk about. A lot of fire to bring today. Call of Duty is definitely feeling unique and special this time around, man. And I'm excited to get into it. So appreciate you for having me on. And man, I can't wait to get into it with you guys.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you being here. Fuzzy Belvedere, brother, we missed you on Friday. Good thing that you reached out to to your doctor. You're feeling better. You look great. You got your color back. First of all, how you feeling? And welcome, man.
Oh, just glad to be back. Feeling much better. Friday morning, I woke up at like 4 and was not like, I never felt stomach pain like that. Thankfully, it wasn't anything like an appendix or anything along those lines. But yeah. It was not a good morning, but got progressively better over the day. Had a like not really a migraine, but a headache towards the end of the day. But yeah, that stomach pain I don't wish on anybody, not even my worst enemy kind of thing. But glad to be here. A lot of gaming stuff to get into. Didn't get to do as much gaming as I would have loved to, but definitely rushed through Atomic Heart before it left Game Pass. And I think I'm going to pick up Mafia as my next, like, kind of in the rotation game, since that's in Game Pass now as well. And still on the fence on Black Myth Wukong. I'll eventually get to that on PC. But yeah, there's just didn't get to play the beta though. I miss playing the Call of Duty beta, but I'm loving all the replays and videos I've seen out there. And hey, first party now is delivering on all cylinders.
Again, when you sit back, I saw people actually talking about this, and to that point, that's a great point. Call of Duty is first party. Like, that is just madness. Mm-hmm. Look, let's just rip the Band-Aid right off. Let's get into Call of Duty and Black Ops. Steel, I'm going right to you first. Look, for me personally, I haven't played Call of Duty in a very long time. And as anyone that's a fan of the channel, that's been subscribed for a while, what do I normally say about multiplayer versus single player? I'm a single player guy. I love story. I love getting invested in the world, in the characters, in the antagonist, and of course myself, the protagonist. I love all of that. I love story. I love sitting back and being enveloped in a world when someone is trying to tell this amazing story. And I that's what I love about single player games. Well, I'm here to tell you, folks. Normally, how I play Call of Duty and how I played for years. I mean, going all the way back to when it was in World War II, when it launched on the Xbox 360, Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 2, if you remember. I always go. I have always gone single player first, and then I'll get to the single play, the multiplayer when I get to the multiplayer. Folks, I'm here to tell you. I put maybe about 6 hours so far into the beta. And I have most of it recorded. I've hit my level 20. I've maxed out using the AK-47. I got everything I needed for that. I really like that gun. It's really good. It's fast. I'm telling you, when Black Ops 6 releases later this year, I'm going right into multiplayer almost immediately, even before I touch a single player game. I cannot believe I'm actually saying that. I had so much fun. And you know, again, when Steele was saying about the no Diddy meat sack, that's a thing. He'll tell you what that means. He told me I nearly fell out of my chair. I did that to a couple of people, and I got some kills over it. And then of course I did the execution. Holy shit! I mean, wow! This game is so good. It's so polished. It's so much fun. It's so fast that if you didn't get a chance to play, I think that this is the one that gets you to play. And look, of course, last year your mileage is going to vary. Some people loved Modern Warfare 3. I put a pinch into it just to kind of try it out. Not my thing, really. I don't know what it was. It wasn't for me. Fine. I don't normally play Call of Duty. Something about Black Ops 6 though, it just hooked me. So of course, you know, they give you the option. Hey, do you want the $30 upgrade? I bought it immediately. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely getting involved. But Steele, let's talk about the beta. You had a blast with it. You weren't sure you were going to play it, but you did. And please explain to the fine folks of what the no Diddy meat sack thing means, because apparently that's a thing. Oh, you're on mute, brother.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, man. What can I say about Black Ops 6 that that wouldn't get people more excited, honestly. But to your point, I wasn't going to play Black Ops 6 because fortunately or unfortunately, there's very few Call of Duties that I find myself not interested in, right? But most I do find some interested in, I do end up playing. And I'm typically not a beta dude really like that either. But nonetheless, I did end up, I uninstalled Call of Duty from my Battle.net launcher. And again, I've said this to Boom in the background, and I just want to use this. And I know I'm a small sample size. This isn't going to be a thing that everybody does. But I know a lot of people say that launchers are always an issue, and people have an issue with the Xbox launcher especially. Now, I'm the rare case. For me, I look at the Xbox app kind of like Cyberpunk 2077. I didn't have the issues that everybody else did at launch, right? And I still don't have those issues, or have had those issues since then. It's been very rare and few in between, but nonetheless, I deleted it from Battle.net, and because I just wanted to see how it was going to be in Xbox Game Pass. Not only that, I have an Ultimate subscription, and you have to buy the game, because I wanted to see if there was a way that I connected my Ultimate to Battle.net. They're all under the same roof now. Like, how is that going to work? But there was nothing there to explain any of that. So I was like, okay, well, I'll delete it from here. I really only use Battle.net for Diablo and Call of Duty. I'm not playing Diablo 4 right now. So, and I installed it on Xbox. On the Xbox app. It was extremely seamless. It also asks you, because it's the time around where they also ask you exactly what you want to download from the game. because again, it's all under this Call of Duty HQ kind of thing now, right? Where you have to download this and then download all these other parts of it if you want to. It's not as broken as it used to be. Nonetheless, I downloaded the beta. It loaded up perfectly fine, optimized shaders, everything loaded up as intended. And that was super dope to see, because again, that's going to be one of the first roadblocks that people run into who have any interest in jumping into Call of Duty this year, especially with it being in Game Pass Ultimate. But as soon as I loaded in, the first thing I did was run through the tutorial, and I almost didn't do the tutorial. I was like, man, what I need to play the tutorial for? This is Call of Duty. I've been playing Call of Duty for a long time. I'm the guy that hops into Call of Duty after I haven't played in 3 to 6 months, and I play ranked and stress. Well, I don't stress myself out because I like that high octane action, but I'll jump into ranked Warzone and wonder why I'm playing with these randos who don't know what they're doing, and question myself as why people still don't know how to play domination or anything. But nonetheless, I tried out the tutorial, and just from the very jump, you can notice a vast difference in how the game feels. And this is something I will continue to talk about, just like I talk about from going from 30 frames to 60 frames. I think what Treyarch has implemented with this, and it's something that's so simple that even I thought it was going to be somewhat of a gimmicky thing, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, this omni movement thing, it's going to make a world of a difference. You're going to really feel the gun. You're going to make action moves. And I was like, I don't know about this. Man, when I tell you, when they had me jump through the door the first time and I was able to spin my camera around mid-jump and actually look around the corner or look at whoever was right there at the door, was such a special feeling, because I was explaining to Boom in the background, there's things that we would have just been taught in games, right? Certain things just aren't possible. Things have just been a certain way for such a long time. How you would naturally think about things, people who have shotguns or have been around things like that, or if you're even in the military, you probably are familiar with checking your corners and checking rooms and all this good stuff. Like, just even if you were a normal person, like if you were going into a dark room, maybe you would want to check around the corner real quick. Or if you did jump into the room, you would look real quick, right? Not just look straight and be laying on the floor, right? So when you implement that into a game, it does feel weird in Call of Duty at first. And I do find myself getting used to it, because a lot of my time in the beta, I was spending just jumping around. I was like, oh, let me dive this way, because with the Omni movement, you can literally dive any way, left, right, crazy. Front, back, Max Payne kind of style, right? It doesn't go slow-mo or nothing like that, but that's how it feels. Like you're Max Payne in first person. And the uniqueness of it, this was something that I just wasn't expecting for it to feel as crisp as it does. And there's going to be a lot of advantages to it. There's going to be a lot of disadvantages to it. And it's going to be extremely interesting to see how casual players and even the hardcore players start taking advantage of these things, or just getting used to this new movement style in a first-person shooter. There were some tweets that are going around as well. I believe it was Eastside Vandal, actually. Shout out to Vandal. He made a post on Twitter that said, hey, is the Omni movement in Call of Duty, is that something that could possibly change the FPS genre or be implemented in all first-person shooter games? And I wrote him a comment, and I was just like, honestly, I think it may. Like, this is one of those innovative things that maybe you wouldn't think of that would be extremely impactful. And I think we need this in Halo. I need this in Rainbow. I need this in every other first-person shooter moving forward, just because of how natural it begins to feel the more you play. It's extremely dope. But I was talking to Boom, because I know some people are trying to downplay it, right? About Black Ops 6. What's crazy to me is that the thing that's blowing up the most about Black Ops 6, at least from what I'm seeing, is the whole meat shield system that they have now, right?
Talk about it, brother.
When they first
when you do it, but not so much when someone does it to you.
Absolutely. What's funny about it is the meat shield mechanic is something that I'm more so familiar with it from Gears of War, right? That was something that has always been in there. Campaign, you can do it, but it was used a lot in multiplayer. What's even more funny about what's happening, and it's happening on all the social medias. I'm talking about YouTube Shorts, TikTok. It's heavy on TikTok right now. And to play into what Boom was mentioning about the No Diddy 6 thing, it is becoming a hashtag of people are literally meat shielding people, because all you got to do in here versus like what you were doing in Gears of War, you had to down people, right? You get downed, people pick you up off the floor, and then we bring you to a corner, and we essentially would do the same things. Oh, you like that, huh? Oh man, look at you now. Look, you're in my arms now, right? Like those are things we were doing 10, 15 years ago in Gears of War, man. Talking mad smack. It was one of the most disrespectful thing outside of beating somebody's face in for however long, because they changed it going into Gears 3, that you could do in the game. And to see people catch so much traction or really love the fact that you can run up behind somebody in Call of Duty and grab them behind the neck and use them as a meat shield, not only I think is an interesting mechanic for a first-person shooter overall, especially in Call of Duty, but the amount of smack talk that this is going to introduce, because let's be real. If you're online and somebody runs up behind you, and instead of assassinating you, they grab you and start moving around and talking smack and telling you that, oh yeah, welcome to the Diddy party, baby. You ready to sign this contract? I think it's such an amazing thing for gaming in totality. And again, no, I don't promote toxicity or nothing like that, but I love to have good fun. And I think this is something that does implement the fun back into the gaming side, especially for Call of Duty. And that's super dope to see, man. It's really funny. It's crazy to think that people are now picking up on this from something that I had experienced 10, 15 years ago that I thought was special, and it being reinvigorated in this way, man. So the one most powerful thing I think about Call of Duty this time around with Black Ops 6 is that with the amount of traction that it's getting, I really am interested to see how people end up engaging with it. Because I do think with the way that this game feels, plays, this definitely has a chance to blow the Game Pass numbers up. At least double for whatever they are right now, just based off principle, right? There's millions of gamers that are out there. There's millions of people who have not played Call of Duty in such a long time. And I spent my weekend, I should say, listening to people since the beta came out, just talk about, oh man, I hadn't played Call of Duty in a minute. I've put the game away for like 3 games or whatever, and it was just not for me anymore. And they try to beta out because either it's available to them in Game Pass, their homies tell them about it, or they just get access to it. And they're like, bro, I haven't played Call of Duty since Ghosts, and this feels amazing. Right. So it's really dope to see. I think Xbox does have something special on their hand. I know a lot of people were hoping that Call of Duty was going to start falling off, but looks like everything else around it is continue to kind of wane and teeter. They put out some numbers for X Defiant this week as well. It looks like it's losing its player base. So again, Call of Duty might end up being king going into the holidays weekend, man. I mean, this at the end of this year. So it's just super dope to see. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Really enjoying what they're giving us, and can't wait to play it on release, man. So
yeah, honestly, it's all I want to play. It's literally the only thing that I want to play. I am so I was almost late to the show, folks. I'm not going to front. I was playing. When I'm done with this, I'm getting back. Honestly, it's infectious. And it's not because, it's only in Game Pass and that's why you're playing it.
It's not.
No, it's I haven't played in a long. Listen, the problem with me is that as much as I would love to sit in a party with the people in the community and just be there for 6 hours and just play and laugh and make jokes and whatever, I just don't have the time. So what I like about Halo, what I like about Call of Duty is I can play with randos. It's not a problem. I can still have fun, even if it's 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes I get lucky and I can play for an hour. And that's exactly what I did over the weekend. Whenever Mrs. Boom was doing some other stuff, we weren't chilling and watching our K-dramas. I'm playing Call of Duty. In fact, all I was playing this weekend was the Castlevania triple pack that released. I'm 12 hours into Dawn of Sorrow. My God, it's so good. And I haven't even touched Star Wars yet. Like, I have it, it's downloaded. I just Call of Duty, and again, well, you're not going to see it here because obviously I wouldn't have my credit card information show up on the screen. But
Yeah.
I did buy the $30 Volt Edition upgrade because it's worth every penny in my opinion. Look, Fuzzy, it appears that Xbox and Microsoft have, and specifically Treyarch and Activision have a hit on their hands. This is going to do numbers. There's no denying it. It is so good. The Omni movement that Steele was referring to is so fast, and it makes the game so much fun. Where I was telling Steele in the green room, there's a particular part in the villa where you have to when you have to like capture the spots by the pool. And anyone that's played it knows what I'm talking about. And there are 2 kill points from the top. So if you stick your head up, you're dead, right? But if you hug the wall and you're low, whether you be on your back or on laying prone, people won't see you. I've actually had people like crawl past me because I thought I was a dead body, and I just light them up. And it's just, I can't get enough of it. This is going to be a big deal. So Steele seems to think, and I'm right there with him. I co-sign exactly what he's talking about, where this is going to be a Game Pass title that brings people to the yard, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's Call of Duty, it's Black Ops, it's in Game Pass. But why I think Steele's onto something more than people may or may not give him credit for is the timing. We are in a time where spending $76.43 plus the extra $30 for the Volt Edition, so $108 after tax, isn't just anyone's going to go and do it, right? Like $108 for a lot of people, that's a food shopping, right? That might be your phone bill. So, and again, this is where a frugal gamer who understands that he or she wants to be a part of the conversation. How do we get there if we can't afford to spend $108? Well, you can get Game Pass. And like I said, if you're frugal, you can get it for more than the $20 a month they're going to be offering it come September, come this month when it changes the price. But you haven't had a chance to play because obviously you were a bit under the weather, but you got a chance to watch all the videos. You got a chance to see the gameplay here. You got a chance to hear about it from other people. Let's break down how important this is, not only as an Xbox Game Pass title, because it is going to bring people in. My rough estimate is in the first couple of weeks, 2 million plus players, and I'm downplaying it a bit because I do think it's going to be more than that. You heard Starfield broke all-time numbers for Game Pass subscribers on day one, all time. This is going to shatter that 10 times over. There's just no doubt about it. Call of Duty is that big, and again, can we say it all out loud? Call of Duty is Xbox first party. It still doesn't even sit right. Like, honestly, let's get your hot take, man.
Well, one thing, and some people have made mention in the chat, it's almost like it's at the right home now. It's a perfect fit considering how Live started with party chat and things along those lines, and proximity chat in a lot of their games. And then to have this, especially where you're going to have the meat shield set up and the Omni movement, all of those things right now goes to show how much Xbox is kind of like, I know people are going to disagree because, well, they were probably working on this before they were acquired. Whatever. Xbox has always been kind of that innovator when it comes to multiplayer games, or some sort of thing in multiplayer games that will bring more attention and then eventually becomes a norm in other games. So much to this, what Steele said, as far as like the Omni movement, that is something I think that should be in a lot more games. Like it seems like things, especially in the first person shooter genre, have been, I won't say stale, but kind of stale as far as new or innovative things. Like we saw how much people gravitated to the grappling hook when it came to Halo with Halo Infinite and stuff. So having those like, new things kind of show up or reappearing things show up, make headway. And this Omni movement is definitely part of that. But the human shield thing, I definitely want to see that in more games. Like I remember it more so in the single player aspect of like Ghost Recon Wildlands, where you would do
Fair.
that
Yep.
piece to get
Point.
intel from them and things like that. But yeah, this is fun to have something like that in multiplayer. And I'm hoping they even have something like that in the single player as well. Just for the harder difficulty, you can use that extra armor at certain
Yep.
points. So these are I wouldn't say necessarily game changers, but they will change the game to some extent, because it is going to bring more energy or more people into that game and probably keep them in playing that game more frequently or more often, in comparison to some other ones that made some traction, like something human. Was it the one that's like
Once human?
Once human? Yeah. So these are going to be things that I'm so glad Treyarch and the everybody that's pretty much worked on Call of Duty have implemented into the game, because it's definitely gonna, one, be across the board for multiplat, or as far as a multiplat, be something that everybody's talking about, everybody's playing. Clips will be probably a continuous thing until people can figure out some sort of exploit or whatever. But for the meantime, in all fun, I think this is probably one of the better moves that we've seen in the first person shooter genre. And just watching the clips has been so much fun. The fact that this is in Game Pass, a lower entry point or lower cost for the entry into this gaming space, I think is a huge thing. And we know that there's going to be some holiday specials, whether it's bundles or like what you see Target and other places do. Oh, buy this console, pick one of these 3 games for free or something along those lines. This is going to be something that from launch to, I would say, the holiday season is going to probably be on the top of the charts. Like, I think the only thing they'll probably, start chipping away at this will probably be when Grand Theft Auto, if it hits in 2025, I still think it might get delayed, but I think that's the only thing they'll kind of, take away from the momentum that they will have with this these changes to Call of Duty. But it's great to see. Looks like a ton of fun. I'm looking forward more so to the single player, because that's more what I do with Call of Duty. But it's just so fun seeing people just snatch people up. Going into quarter, that's kind of funny, but I've seen people have like the human shields like Kiss or whatever. So it's like there's just a whole bunch of random things for if you want to do like viral content. This is like the perfect source right now.
Yeah.
Like for a while, it used to be Fortnite. No, I think Call of Duty is going to take Fortnite's crown for the next few months and things like that, because they always seem to be fighting on who's on top for number one in the most played games on a platform. And I think Call of Duty's got what it takes now to probably, solidify them at the top across the board. But and it's going to be on probably Switch 2. So yeah, this is really, it's going to have legs for at least the next year. And I hope they continue to innovate on some of these move sets and things like that. So it's just great to see.
I'm gonna be honest with you folks. Like, you don't realize how you play until you sit back and you watch. I'm sitting here and I'm like, is this honestly me? It's like, honestly, I'm like, wait a second. Am I watching someone else's gameplay? No, folks, this is actually old man BoomStick. And you know what? Damn. I haven't played in a long time. I cannot wait for it. Again, folks, let us know your thoughts in the chat. We'll kind of read them on the air. What have you had a chance to play? Shout out to Infinite Umbra, who popped up in the chat. What's going on, brother? Welcome as always. Yeah, I am enthralled with this game. I'm gonna be very sad when the beta goes away. I wish I could play. I could continue to play. I got, like I said, I got to level 20. And again, that's the cap for right now. I don't know if they're gonna bring it back another time, but I will say this servers are getting slammed. There's no doubt about it. People on PlayStation 5 are playing. People on Xbox are playing. People on PC are playing. And it ran phenomenal. Like, there were some clips where you saw like the loading screen kind of slowed a little bit, but past that, I had no problems finding a match seconds. Like, the minute you get into it and you pick it and you go find a match, I was finding matches, boom, boom, boom. Off time, peak time, didn't matter. Had no problem with slowdown, stuttering. I always loaded whatever I wanted, because sometimes in the past you've had, like, you load your loadout, it's not your loadout. And I'm like, wait, what the hell is this? Had none of that. Like, it's so well done, and it's going to be everything that Steel and Fuzzy have said, it just completely knocked it out of the park. This is going to be huge. And again, folks, It's in Game Pass. Like, I don't think people understand how big of a deal that actually is. It is a monster-sized deal where people who haven't, like myself, who haven't played in years, are just going to download it and try it. And again, if it's not for you, hey, man, it's just not for you. I get it. But there's an opportunity to get into, and again, if maybe the multiplayer isn't your bag. Maybe you haven't played a Black Ops in years. Well, you're going to get the campaign. The campaign looks really solid. Like, it looks amazingly good. But look, what else could we say? We gushed over the the beta. Someone actually had said earlier, and I don't remember the name. My apologies. Xbox 360 era is back. I think they're onto something here. I really think they're on. You know what? Before we move on, let's and again, please throw it back in the chat who said that, because I saw it and I don't remember because I'm an old man. Let me get your hot take on that, because that's what it felt like for me. That was the last time I was like invested in what I did in Call of Duty. It's been a long time, folks. I've played Call of Duty. I've just never been invested. The last time I was vested into it was during the 360 era, and that was the best time for Call of Duty on Xbox. On this beta alone, Steel, I kind of got that feeling.
I got some of that, but I think for me, it's definitely going to be a little bit of a different perspective for sure, or maybe a lot of a different perspective. Mainly because I've always been the multiplayer gamer. I've been multiplayer gaming since 2000, right? Just as an example. So it's always felt like the 360 era to me. Every multiplayer game that comes out, that's why I'm so adamant about games even just releasing tacked on multiplayer if they could, or some form of PvP, or when PvP gets taken away out of games that I like. For an example, Last of Us, a shot to that. I have a really deep rooted heart for multiplayer gaming, but where I can agree with you on that is, I think more so the reason why it's feeling like the 360 era is because there are people like yourself, Boom, again, to my point from earlier, that who have not played in a while. They jumped into Call of Duty, like you were mentioning in the background, Boom, like, man, this game feels fast, or you said it live as well. Yeah. And it's like, well, to be honest, Boom, it's been fast like this for a while. You know what I mean? Like, but it does feel a little bit faster because of the Omni movement. And again, something so small to make such a big impact. But again, I also think that it's some of the uniqueness as well that the game is bringing. It's seemingly bringing the community together as well. Now, that Call of Duty has tended to do this on a year-by-year basis, for better or for worse. Whether people love it or hate it, it always brings everybody out. People got either good things to say about it, or they got bad things to say about it. And Call of Duty will forever have those kind of things. But I do think that Black Ops 6 is probably going to be the first time in a while where we're going to end up getting a lot of consistent people, especially more of the casual crowd, as they get used to it, who are really getting into it, where they're putting up clips like, oh man, I never made a clip before, but I got this sick clip in Call of Duty, and I jumped through this door, and I capped a couple fools, man, and I really just feel good about the gameplay experience that I'm have. And I think that's what made the 360 generation special. Again, there was nothing like Gears of War on the that was out there at the time, right? You had some similarities. I know people talk about Uncharted, but again, the reason I will always be a Gears stan in many ways is because there is nothing like it, right? And then again, you speak to it, Xbox had the marketing right for Call of Duty during that time too, right? So it's like, it is, to Fuzzy's point that he was making her earlier, it is like Call of Duty coming back home. This is, Xbox was known as the shooter box. Xbox was known as the multiplayer box. Xbox was known for community. And again, these are the things that made me fall in love with the Xbox ecosystem. And again, while I will always and probably forever be a proponent of it, as long as they show me that they're willing to support it, whether it's exclusives, whether it's this, whether it's that, I want to see what you put into the ecosystem that's going to continue to get people excited, garner that interest. And this is a good example of that. And I really hope Go back to your 360 element. That was also back when we weren't getting a Call of Duty every year, right? So it's like, I hope that this is an example to Xbox and Activision that, hey, that next Call of Duty that you're thinking about putting out next year, nah, we were hearing some rumors that it was having some issues. Nah, go ahead and delay it a couple years or at least a year and see where people start falling in at. Because one of the most successful things that I really and passionately feel that they did, moving from Modern Warfare 2 into 3, is bringing that progression. I think that showed people that, hey, maybe you need to give people a couple years, a few years with this title so they can get their full on, they can get all of it out. Because as much as waiting 5 or 6 years for a Call of Duty, I think that would be way too long. Just like I think waiting that type of time for a Halo is way too long.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Just the same, but just in that opposite end of the spectrum, I think waiting a year is way too soon because in the multiplayer space, you're not giving these titles time to really breathe. Call of Duty does not need to be a sports franchise. Right? Like it's not an EA game. And I think even EA would make a ton more money if they stopped doing the way that they did and just offered roster updates for a certain fee or whatever the case. And because we see how things are going. So I definitely get what you're speaking to. And I do feel a bit of that is coming back out and leaking back into the gaming community. And that's really dope to see. So.
It absolutely is. Real quick, shout out to Adidas20. He's the one that said, that was me. The 360 era is back. That's what it feels like to me. Shout out to Ninja Squirrel with the nastiness. He says, Boom spending more time on his back than a hooker, referring to Black Ops 6 game. Gameplay. Whoa! Pause right there, brother. No Diddy. Shout out to you, Ninja Squirrel. Thanks so much, brother. Quickly, Fuzzy, let's talk about it because I think what in those 3 words, Xbox 360 era is back, does really ring the bell for me as someone who played Call of Duty, haven't played in years, played this, cannot wait to get into it. I've already forecasted that when the game releases in Game Pass at the end of October, I'm going into multiplayer first. Like I've never done that before, except back in the 360 days. And I kind of feel that particular statement by Adidas20, it just rings the bell super hard. Pause. Let's talk about it.
Well, we see why Jim Ryan went flying here and there and everywhere to kind of prevent this. So it goes to show why they were as concerned, even though people don't want to admit that PlayStation was a bit scared or afraid or whatever you want to call it. This is the exact reason why, because if the momentum keeps on swinging towards Xbox's favor as far as this game, not just the revenue that they'll be earning from the game, but the fact that this being in Game Pass, if more and more people go that route and just do like the Vault upgrade and things like that, that's cutting off Sony's potential margins that they would have gotten by just even getting the 30% of the sale on their platform. So it's not there just yet, but that feeling is there, and that's enough to start having the casuals or friends in a group say, well, I'm going to pick it up on Game Pass because I could just spend the $30 and get it and then put the $70 to another game that I'm looking forward to, like maybe Indiana Jones or what do you call them, Assassin's Creed or something like that. So I think this is going to be not necessarily the tipping point, but this will definitely have a lot of people looking at their PlayStation possibly and being like, you know what, I'll still get this game over here, but I can use my PC or I can pick up a Series S, and I saw that there was a bundle, and then just go that route and then do the upgrades and save themselves some money, because they'll probably play it enough where they'll get their money's worth out of a subscription and the upgrade for the amount that they play it, and then they might stumble across a couple other games in Game Pass, and then that'll be the hook that Xbox and Microsoft are looking for, right? Like one of the indie games or things like that draws people in, and it's like, you know what, I would have never bought this game, normally, or it wouldn't have been on the radar, and that gets them to stay. So yeah, this definitely has the vibe of the 360 era, but I think it's even bigger or more so by the time this actually does the full launch. We get into the holiday sales, and then people start talking about, hey, while you're at it with Game Pass, there's other stuff there too. So
Right.
yeah, we saw what Jim Ryan was afraid of, and now it's coming to fruition.
I mean, great points all around. Listen, shout out to nearly 800 live viewers. Wow, that's crazy across Twitter and YouTube. Thank you so much for checking out the show. If you're new and you're just finding finding us for the first time, you're enjoying your conversation, you're enjoying the laughter and the fun and the jokes, consider subscribing. We definitely would appreciate that. Before we get into Concord, because we got to talk about Concord. We got some sales numbers. We have concurrent stats as literally half an hour before the show went live. It's just not good, and I think that this beta has officially killed it off. It's cut its throat for sure, at least in my opinion. The game isn't good. It was poorly made, and obviously now ramifications, folks. What happens to Sony moving forward? We're going to get into that conversation, but before we do, I got to catch up on super chats. There's been quite a few of them. We have Nightwolf 3186 drops not one but two $5 super chats. The first one, he says, "Happy Labor Day, Boom, Steel, Fuzzy, and chat.
Hey.
Happy to you as well, sir. Glad we get a show today. Playing Outlaws all weekend and enjoying this awesome hobby of ours. Hashtag LFG indeed." My brother's been playing all weekend as well. He's quite enjoying himself. And of what we're talking about, Star Wars Outlaws by Ubisoft. Second super chat of $5. He says, "Boom, any truth to the rumor of a September Activision Game Pass drop? And also, I heard possibly they may be Transformers related." Yes and yes. We're covering that tomorrow. That story was broken by Ecstasies. Apparently, in September, there's going to be 19 games dropped into the service. And supposedly, at least 13 of them are first-time drops, which is a big deal. As regards to the Transformers stuff, yes, I believe he also broke that story where there's currently at Xbox and Activision 2 Transformer projects. Again, we're going to cover all of that tomorrow with Jamie Moran, because Jamie is specifically going to lead that topic. He's a Transformers fan, as much as I am. But it's going to be 2 topics we cover tomorrow in absolute detail. So thank you so much for the generosity, brother. We have our good friend Giggity08 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "This is the most fun I have had in a Call of Duty multiplayer since BLOPS 2. And you know something? You're not wrong. BLOPS 2 was dope. This feels even better, bro." We also have here Highlander 001 has been a channel member for 26 months. What's up, Highlander? Thank you so much for joining us. He says, "I am loving Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I love the meat shield mechanic. When I realized I could talk to them, I go, at this point, you realize you effed up." I love it. Speaking sweet nothings into their ear is just going to be hilarious, bro. Good stuff. Brett Bingham drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "Congrats to the Call of Duty team making 15-year-old tech from the Xbox games Halo 3 and Gears popular again and on multi-platforms. To think career ponies haven't experienced this until now." I mean, Steel knocked it out of the park. You could do what we're doing now in BLOPS 6 back in the days in Gears of War, which is bonkers. But here we are. It's unbelievable how something from all those yesteryear is made fresh again. Will Broke Boy Lewis, what's going on, brother? Thank you for being here, Will, and I appreciate the very generous $2 super chat. Will goes on to say, "Another Black Ops 6 open beta is this weekend, Boom. So play." Oh, they're doing it again. Oh my God, that's awesome. Awesome. Yes, here we go. And Giggity08 drops an additional very generous $5 super chat. And he says, "My only gripe with the beta is that I had a lot of loading issues with my ROG Ally." Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, that's interesting. Ran flawless on my Series X, but had troubles with my ROG Ally.
You're on the ROG, so you got to keep that in mind. Those handheld PCs are still handheld PCs, and they're not meant to be playing every modern game that comes out day one. You're gonna have to give it some time. The beta is going to help you figure some of those things out. So
I'm glad you mentioned it. Again, throw it on the socials. Let the team know.
Yeah, definitely
Maybe
let
they
them
can they can add some some adjustments to it. Shout
Check
out
it
to you,
out.
brother. Thank you for the generosity. Adidas 20 drops a very generous $5 super chat and goes on to say Xbox went from 2080 split to a 70-30 split from multiple outlets. Sony lost Call of Duty money it used to pay for first party and block third party from
They said
Xbox.
that.
I mean, you're not wrong, Adidas. This is what Jim was talking about. They used the money, which, look, make no mistake, folks. PlayStation gamers who are PlayStation gamers are going to lap up Black Ops 6. That's what they're going to do. They're going to buy it in droves. They're going to get the $100 edition. They're going to buy skins. They're going to continue to do what they do. Is it going to sell better or more players on Xbox because it's Game Pass? If I were a betting kind of a guy, and I'm really not, I would probably say it's going to be close. But PlayStation 5, listen, they have 61 million consoles for the PS5. This is launching on PS4 as well. They have 118 million consoles in the wild and probably sold more since then. People are going to buy it. People are going to buy it on PlayStation. The only difference is that Sony is not the marketing arm anymore. This is going to be marketed for Xbox Game Pass. And I think they're going to, and I think Steele's onto something. You're going to see the numbers explode. Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't you want to play something in a service for your $20 a month? It's crazy. But gentlemen, we gotta transition to get into numbers and information that is just not promising for a game that was expected to be a moneymaker for PlayStation as a first-party AAA developed game that took 8 years to develop. And of course, I'm talking about Concord. Now, this is a mess. This is a mess. So I got some numbers here, and of course, it's all about bringing numbers to the conversation because, again, I love evidence-based conversation. You can have your opinions. You can't argue numbers. Well, here are the numbers, folks, and they're not good. And again, obviously, this was posted just the other day. According to official numbers, Concord has sold Steel a mere 25,000 copies since launch. Okay, 15,000 on PS5, 10,000 on PC. Right. So the old question, what went wrong? Well, a whole bunch of it. It should have launched free to play. There's no doubt about it. Asking $40 for what seemed to be a very, very poorly designed free-to-play game with microtransactions that are less than spectacular. Normally, when I buy a skin, and I don't play a lot of multiplayer, but when I go and I play Halo, for instance, I spend a lot of money in Halo. I make no qualms of it. It's one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time, right? I spend quite a few bucks in Halo Infinite, like today. When there's a new season, I buy because they got this one. I buy this armor. I buy that armor. It's fine because I enjoy playing the game. There's nothing inspiring about the character palette swaps that you have in Concord. They're unappealing on every level. The gameplay is as basic bone bare if you could possibly get. And, well, obviously, this game is going to die if it hasn't already died. Black Ops 6 multiplayer probably killed it. So you want to know how many people concurrently are playing this game as of, I don't know, an hour ago. 58 people. 58 people, Steel, are playing Concord. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably the developers. It's probably people within Sony just to have this game have any numbers at all. It still hasn't broken its all-time peak of 697. Its best numbers. The all-time 24-hour peak for Steam, 119. And concurrent right now, 58. It's just off. This game didn't sell 25,000 copies. Now, apparently, Steele, the rumor is that Sony is taking a $200+ million bet on this game. Again, we're not, dancing on anyone's graves here. We're just talking. I got to be honest with you. Sony, who I've been saying for a while, has been in a tailspin. You get called all kinds of names when you say that, and you kind of bring that to reality conversation. They need gas games like Microsoft. Microsoft has a plethora of games that are making money on their platform too, by the way, in the form of Minecraft, Call of Duty, and Fallout 76, and it just keeps going. Sea of Thieves, it just keeps Concord. Grounded is another one. It's just the list is as long as my arm. Steele, again, let's talk about Concord, but ultimately ramifications, because Sony's next game is Jade Raymond's Payday 3 looking ish game. Fair Games, as it's called. It has the potential to flop just like this, especially when you have Call of Duty BLOPS 6 coming out. Again, we don't expect it this year. We haven't heard anything since they originally showed off the CD trailer. It's just they are in trouble because, of course, on top of Concord's failure, on top of Fair Games, lots of question marks there. What have we recently heard about Bungie's multiplayer game? That it's in shambles. Shambles. Sony's in a pickle, folks. Don't be fooled. Don't get the banana in the tailpipe. Pause. Let's talk about it.
Oh boy. This is a multi-faced conversation. You could flip a coin and just call it heads or tails and decide which way you kind of want to start the conversation, man. Because there's so many different things that you could look at. I've seen some people kind of bring out the idea that a game idea that was good 6 years ago may not be good for today, and that's a scary thing to think about for a dev. And that tweet that I saw, I won't say who I saw it from because I don't want people like jumping that way or anything like that. But that tweet that I saw from somebody that was prominent was really interesting to me, because if Concord was what they had in development 6 years ago, just from a character design standpoint, that tells me enough. They were lost in the sauce then and didn't know what they were doing. I seen more people leaning on the DEI side of things. I don't necessarily like the way that conversation goes most times. A lot of people use it more on the racial side of things, which is just, it's weird. And there's a lot of things that I do agree with. Inclusivity in some forms, and diversity does need to be brought into more forms of entertainment, because there is not enough of it. There's millions of people around the world billions of people, that look all kinds of ways and should be represented if possible. But in gaming, when I think back as far as I can go, one of the, at least for me, right? And I know some of the older gamers out there, you guys had more of the pixelated things. You kind of had to use your imagination. But even then, when you were looking at the case of a game, right, there was something that really stood out to you that was the it factor for why you picked up that game case, why you looked the back cover, why you even opened it, why you were excited to get it home, because you were hoping that the game would look like what you imagined on that game case, right? There is nothing in Concord to me that signifies, if I would have saw that game at a Blockbuster, that would have said, man, I need to rent this game today. There's just nothing. Even when you look at the base characters that they displayed, Guardians of the Galaxy is the biggest compliment that you can give the game. Now, I want to preface a lot of what I'm going to say with, I was an extreme Destiny fan, right? So a lot of what I've seen from Concord, what people have said about Concord, the whole, oh, it feels like Destiny PvP, but you know, you got different characters and they got these abilities, and it's like, you guys have literally never played Destiny. There's a reason why I am extremely upset by the fact that Bungie has again shown that they lack the capacity to make another good Halo version or another good IP. Now, on a PvE standpoint, I don't have much to say about Destiny, but when it comes to PvP, something that was at Bungie's core, as an example, it did not get support. They brought that team in to help facilitate and get ideas and see whether, hey, how do you feel about these games? Bungie has been under PlayStation for what, 2 years now? I want to say, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm off. Correct me if I'm misspeaking. So you're telling me, from the rumors that we've seen and everything, out of all the games that they possibly had looked over, and at this point, I think they had more problems, and I don't think they had any chance to look at any games from what we're looking at what the top management is doing, just a lot of the weird things that are starting to come out from behind the scenes, and what we're now hearing from Marathon. Again, if you're telling me that Marathon is having issues when they pulled the PvP team off of Destiny since 2019, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know who is allowing them to make these choices, these decisions to cancel any of the other multiplayer games that they had in their wheelhouse. But I guarantee whatever average looking factions mode that they had for The Last of Us, that they delayed, that they said was going to be in their next game and ended up not being there and still isn't there, and they didn't bring the first one back either when they remastered the game. Sony does not know what they are doing. They are completely clueless when it comes to the live service space. And look, I want to hear people when they say, well, you know, it's just wrong place, wrong time. It's just, you know, a lot of people are just crapping on the game, man. They're just all this hate for the game, man. You know, these gamers, you got people writing articles talking about, yeah, man, gamers are the problem. They just don't want to play a good game. But I thought good games sold consoles. So what happened to that?
Yeah, great point.
You said the gameplay is good. You said the character design. Well, no, excuse me, you didn't say the character design, but you said the way that the graphically the game looks good. So if all these other boxes are checked except for character design, because there's no way that you can argue with me that the character design is a strong point in Concord. You just can't. Out of all the other games that are on the market, there is nothing that I am seeing. And that is the main problem, because I have this issue with Diablo as well. Diablo's first season, because I give everybody the smoke when it comes to this. So I want to show people that I am extremely consistent, especially on a look aspect. And I'm not saying that that's everything, but there's a reason why we play games, ladies and gentlemen. We play these games to feel a part of these worlds and to have some of this power fantasy, right? Or to feel like we're in these characters' shoes, right? That's why we want good stories. That's why we want good environments. That's why we want higher frames. That's why we want all these grandiose things that we ask for as gamers. There's probably a million people that you can ask, and I can guarantee you that people would be like, yeah, man, I would like to have a solid looking character, somebody who's cool, somebody I could put on my wallpaper, somebody that is iconic enough for me that at least stands out. Because even in Overwatch, I don't think all the characters in Overwatch are the greatest looking characters, but they do stand out. I know who Winston is. I'm not an Overwatch dude, but I know who Winston is. I know who Mercy is. I know who Tracer is. I know who these characters are because they have become iconic and they do stand out in a crowd of characters. When you look at these video game character wallpapers that people make and they got all these characters spread out all over the place, I can point them out. Master Chief, Snake, Kratos, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro. I'm not seeing the characters from Concord in any of that. And again, I don't know if that's the end all to be all and why this game is not as successful as it is. But I can guarantee you, if the characters would have came across a bit cooler and been more somewhat attractive. I'm not saying that we got to go to first descendant route and go to Eastern dev route where I mean, again, obviously they believe in good looking characters, and you see what it does for them. It does help, though, that the first descendant, as an example, is a good looking game. Not only that, it's a well playing game, right? And it's free to play. It is a game that you could spend 100 hours in and not spend a single dollar,
Not a
and get
penny.
even more content out of it if that is something that is up your alley. So it is confusing to me that people are surprised that this game is not getting traction. Boom, there is a Deadlock, a game that Tom Warren broke his NDA for, is in closed alpha. Closed alpha. That means there's only a limited amount of people that are supposed to be able to get in. You have to be invited. There's over 150,000 players playing that game on Steam, on PC. And I know PC doesn't have to be the end all to be all.
Right.
But typically, especially for multiplayer games, PC can at least give you a baseline on what the life of the game is going to be like, right? Because especially for PlayStation, who has not traditionally been a multiplayer box, I have never talked to anybody and they've been like, yeah, man, I got PlayStation because they got good multiplayer games. No, you got that because you play Call of Duty, which is not your game, has never been their game. And the games that people talk about are games that I didn't hear about as a multiplayer gamer until years after the fact. Why am I just now hearing about how good SOCOM was back in the day? Why am I just now hearing about how good Uncharted was, or all these other multiplayer games that y'all talk about that were on PlayStation? Killzone was good, man. It wasn't good enough. It didn't compete against Halo.
Just well, there isn't a next generation one of Killzone, so there's your answer right there, Steele.
And Concord isn't doing well against his competition in its space either. And the only thing that I can come up with, if everybody's going to say everything else is decent about the game, what is the number one thing that is lacking? It's the design. Terrible. And I can't, for a game that was 8 years in development, I'm sick and tired of hearing the devs, I'm not going to put it on the devs, because I can guarantee you the devs put their best foot forward. They were not trying to create a game that they felt was ugly, that they didn't want to play good. They wanted this game to be successful. I 1000% believe that. What I do believe is that either your publisher because again, Sony acquired them in 2022, but the same way that we put the onus on Xbox for Redfall's fail, is the same way that I'm going to give PlayStation that onus for being completely clueless of what they're trying to do in the multiplayer space and just burning money. A Spider-Man multiplayer game would have been worth much more money than what you have spent on this to make sure it was going to be successful. Factions would have been much more successful than anything else that you had in your warehouse. Twisted Metal probably would have garnered a bigger audience than this game that you have put on its table to die. There is no way that they're going to fulfill their roadmap. And we're seeing more and more devs get let go. For example, there's another Until Dawn or whatever, the game that's about to come out. Yeah, that game's about to release and the company's closing.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And that's under PlayStation as well. So What is happening? But this was the game because the other thing too that's crazy that you got to think about, Boom and Fuzz, when PlayStation was acquiring them, they had to look at this game, and you had to imagine that they sat in that conference room and they said, you know what? We need to buy you guys. You guys you got something special here. It did not look at any of the competition in the space. There's just no way. If that is not surprising enough for you, I don't know what is. It's crazy to see this play out the way that it has. And I'm still trying to figure out other reasons why this happened, other than the art did not stick with people, right? So that's kind of where I'm at on it right now.
It's a great point, man. Great points all around. Listen, we got nearly 900 people watching live. Obviously, that is on YouTube and X or Twitter. If you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. A couple more super chats we'll get into in a second. But Fuzzy Belvedere, I want to bring up some context to the conversation. So, Bleeding Edge by Ninja Theory came out, I think by 10 people made that game. You know, they called it a quote unquote passion project.
Yeah.
Now the game wasn't good. I didn't like it. I'm not a hero shooter guy, but again, it's fine. It was okay. The character designs were pretty cool, but the game just wasn't there. Well, let's just look at the matching concurrent numbers. All time for Concord is under 700. This game that everyone dumped on Steam, concurrent lifetime. Again, it's not great, but we're just doing context comparisons. 1,464. That's they double them up, right? Double them up. So let's talk about Redfall. Redfall, again, I liked it for the single player. Game was broken. Game was half baked. The bones are there, and I'm saddened that we're not going to get a sequel. Try the update, folks, if you're ever interested. The update is amazing. It should have been like this at launch. It wasn't. That's why the studio is gone. That's why this game is dead. But again, let's just compare numbers. Concurrent lifetime, Concord, under 700. And Redfall, the whipping boy, if you will, of Xbox, for another failure, another 60 meta game, 6,124. Like almost 10 times the amount of players. Lifetime concurrent on Steam for Redfall, which again wasn't great. It wasn't. But we're just comparing numbers. Steel, Fuzzy, there's a lot to unpack here. This is ultimately a giant L for PlayStation. It is a fail for the studio, which I have concerns for. I think that the studio is going to be closed. That's what Sony does. It may stay open the next couple of months, but you're going to hear that the studio is going to close because after this, do you have 8 years of development of this game? Do you have confidence as a publisher to let this game just live and fund the next one? Probably not, right? It's fine. And it's disappointing because we've seen a lot of layoffs continue to happen. So this is just going to be something else we're going to discuss. But ultimately, and again, it's not being disrespectful. Steele mentioned it. I'm gonna add some padding to it. The characters appear to be, well, clones or copies of Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're just not good. That's what they are. They're copies. The characters are unappealing, uninspiring. Nobody wants to play as them, and that's Sony's fault for letting this out the door. Here we are, and the game is ultimately dead. Let's get your hot take on the numbers and the fact that only 25,000 copies were sold, 15,000 on PlayStation, but only 10 on Steam. And we don't know if any of those 10 that were returns. Because remember, on Steam you can return them. Good luck, Charlie Brown, on PlayStation. That's not happening. Let's talk about it.
Okay, I'm going to start this off with let's hope for the best as far as the devs and their current employment. Just for the fact that we look at when the gaming media has its targets on something, it can ruin any potential of that game breaking out. Like perfect example.
Oh, you mean
Suicide
how they come
Squad.
after Xbox? You mean?
Yeah. Like the big thing is, like we saw recently how people went after Suicide Squad. Now they're doing layoffs. We see how when Xbox had to do some layoffs because of whether it's duplication or other things, they made a big to-do about it. But this studio is probably right on the brink, much like with Bungie at this point. And they're going to probably handle it with kid gloves as far as how they talk about it. But it's clear to see that there's no other real solution for this game other than to just wrap it up and learn from the mistakes. But then the outcome is going to be loss of jobs and whatnot. But let's look at some other games that should have given them some insight. Lawbreakers, which if we were just to look at Steam numbers, Lawbreakers had at its peak 7,500 players. Now the big running joke was that PlayStation got this game that probably should have started on Xbox, given the history and the type of multiplayer game it was,
and who made it.
It just should have had a different origin story, but for whatever reason, it went over to PlayStation. Bosky tried to get the numbers as far as for that player base, considering how many consoles were sold. And that player base didn't seem to be interested in that style of game. So it wound up closing up pretty quick, especially after, well, not especially after, but they even at least tried to do free to play. And that kind of helped it for another month or two, but it didn't sustain it for a long enough period to even rebound from, the lack of interest at launch and stuff. So even doing a free to play at this point for Concord, I don't think makes any real change. Like if it had launched as free to play, that would have been something. But at this point, I think it's a bit too late. Much like Destruction All Stars, they saw the writing on the wall before they even launched that at the ridiculous $70 price point that they were originally asking. Then they decided to put it in PS Plus and whatnot, and that at least kind of saved the game for the few months or the first few months of people actually giving it a try. But I think the big thing now, and still land or hit on it precisely as far as like other things that were going on in the background with Sony that they probably should have released even half-baked. Half-finished Factions 2 would have cleaned the floor with Concord and probably a good bit of other games, because the Last of Us name would have probably carried it to even get at least 1 million people on Steam if they did a simultaneous
Dual
PC
release.
PlayStation 5 release kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we can't forget the day before was looking like it was like Division meets The Last of Us.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I played
Sure
it.
did.
Yeah, so if they just delivered on that look, that the day before was the most wishlisted game until Hogwarts came out, and I think the only reason why Hogwarts really tipped the scale was, one, it was a licensed IP, but two, there was some rumblings of it possibly being a scam game, but it was still the most wishlisted game for the longest time on Steam. All they had to do over at Naughty Dog is basically put their name on what was shown, and they could have knocked it out of the park with that. I mean, the Spider-Man one is a no-brainer. Sure, there's licensing fees that Marvel and Disney would have probably eaten up some of the profits, but that thing would have printed money for them. I know a lot of people are like, well, that's not guaranteed, but if you see how people buy skins on Fortnite, if that's any indication, that would have been an easy way for them to print money on a Spider-Verse game. But those two titles that Bungie assassinated before they even really got to see the light of day kind of thing, it should take some of the executives within Sony, or PlayStation proper itself, and really evaluate how they trust or listen to certain individuals, whether they might have the company's best interest in mind or their individual interests in mind. Because it seemed like Bungie purposely, moved out or eliminated the competition that would have outshined Marathon, and went with, maybe some of their friends that went to Firewalk or founded Firewalk and stuff like that. Because I think they were former Bungie devs, or a few of them were former Bungie devs. So they were like, oh yeah, these guys aren't going to, they won't harm us with Marathon. Well, Marathon is much better than Concord. So yeah, they get a pass. But these other guys over here with this Factions thing, no, that'll be a blockbuster. It'll outshine Destiny even possibly. So it just feels like there was some internal struggle that upper management didn't recognize and went for the bait. And now they have this $200 million plus, rotten egg in their lap. And it sucks. I much would have rather seen a SOCOM update. They closed, what was that, Defiant or Deviant Games or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They closed them. I would have loved to have seen like a true hard combat, like what do you call it? Like Twisted Metal would have been a fun game. Yeah, it may not have done like faction numbers, but it would have been enough where it would have been a start to help them get a good idea of what they need to do when it comes to games as a service. Like if you had that type of car combat, let's say in like a Forza Horizon kind of thing, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But like that should have been Sony's in, because there's not many games out there. There's like a free-to-play game that's out there that's kind of always in the background as far as car combat, but you have the Twisted Metal IP. That name alone has, memorabilia, well, not memorabilia, but nostalgia behind it. Plus you have the TV series that could have done the marketing for it. But there's so many other IPs that I think Sony would have been better putting forward than Concord. Not saying that they shouldn't have put it out. I think they should have given it either more time or kind of like what Steel and Pong have talked about in the past, where if they made this into a Guardians of the Galaxy co-op game, kind of like the way, you have Helldivers 2 as a co-op game, make it a PvE co-op game. I think that would have been a better avenue for them to go. And it would have probably had longer legs as far as, they would have been able to get through a season pass of content, because people would have been like, you know what? Even though it's dollar store Guardians of the Galaxy, it's still interesting enough where you're playing with friends and you're more focused on possibly the story and the visuals, because it seems like they focus a lot on visuals, but didn't focus on the creativity behind the characters or the backstory or any interesting things in that aspect, which in that case, that's where you would tell the story, and that co-op, type of shooter game would have had a better way to go, much like what you see with Helldivers. Although Helldivers, they kind of spoiled that with the whole PSN stuff, but that's a whole nother thing that Sony's going to have to learn for themselves. But this is just, I won't say it's video games' biggest flop ever, because there's still, a landfill with ET out there somewhere type of thing. But this definitely goes into the history books. And I hope Sony learns from it in the way that maybe they do, go back to whatever that beta build or early build of Factions 2 would be, and at least put that out, because I guarantee you they put that out tomorrow, even without advertising, just by word of mouth, that thing would probably have more concurrent players in the first 10 hours than this game has had in its entire life. But it is what it is. But I'm not going to dance on their funeral too much, but this should have been just like we want to give Xbox a smoke when they did the early trailer for Halo Infinite, where the Craig face and all that. Like, somebody should have said, whoa, let's not show this just yet. Let's put it, let's rework some things.
Yep.
There should have been somebody in either PlayStation proper or even within Firewall that would have been like, right now it's not looking like we're getting the traction we want. Let's change some things. Let's consider the free to play. Let's consider fleshing out the character lineup, because if there's 16 characters and only like 5 look like they're interesting, the main 5 you show for the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer kind of thing, then you have to spend more time on the rest, because people are going to focus on those characters, and then the rest look like somebody's sibling that worked on the dev team type of thing. Like, who wears a blue trench coat as like their character outfit? Like that just, I don't care about how the character looks, but that doesn't look like an interesting costume for somebody that's space traveling and trying to be either like a bounty hunter or something to that effect. It just felt weird from get-go. But I've rambled enough. I'm sorry.
No, you both knocked it out of the park. Look, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a solid hour, like I said, 75 minutes, give or take. This is one of the smaller shows. The Stalker 2 conversation, I'm going to push forward to tomorrow, because obviously we don't want to hold everybody up. It's still the holiday. People are going to go out with their families, whatever. This has been a solid two-topic conversation, and technically 3 when you consider that we went back into Black Ops 6 on the quote-unquote 360 days feeling, because I really do feel that is what it's going to eventually lead to. And I think that when you consider in a service, Xbox first party, and for $30 you are getting the $100 edition, it is going to literally, quote unquote, fly off shelves, because not really flying off shelves, but obviously you know what I mean. Let me just catch up on these last super chats and we'll get everyone out of here. A big thank you to, we had over 915 people watching live on a holiday. Thank you so much for checking out the show. I just checked the numbers. We got a couple of new subs today, which is awesome. Mrs. Boom and I are now on the hunt for, of course, 16K, and we can get there with your help. And obviously, if you enjoyed the conversation, and yes, we were all very honest, very earnest. No one is dancing, because I saw that, and I say that specifically because the devs and some people in the media were using it against content creators. Oh, there are content creators dancing on the graves of Firewalk. No one's doing that here. No one that I know has danced on anyone's graves. We're having a conversation about numbers that are out there that you can go find very easily for yourself. And again, we're not pulling what journalists have been doing for years, and that is curb stomping Xbox at every corner, at every opportunity. It's just people talking about how bad this game is, how badly it should not have been released, and how poorly Sony is making these these big time decisions when it comes to multiplayer. And it doesn't look like Fair Games is going to be any better. And Marathon looks to be even worse at this point. They're in a pickle. We will continue to have this conversation, but we're going to thank Gotham Guy for the very generous $5 super chat. He goes on to say, I bet Sony and the Concord developers would kill for Redfall numbers right now. I bet you they would. They would absolutely would kill for those numbers. Dan Lazaro. Dan, what's up, brother? Welcome back. He says this after dropping a very generous $5 super chat. He goes on to say, multiple big non-gaming channels that I am sub to are streaming Black Ops on, in all capitals, Xbox, which, again, I think Xbox is back in a big way. I really do, and I think this is going to bring everyone to the yard, in my opinion. Will Broke Boy Lewis drops of another generous $5 super chat and says, looks like another quote-unquote Call of Duty killer may be going away soon. Tom Henderson saying that Ubisoft may be shutting down X Divine soon because of it's lost many Wow, yeah. I heard the numbers were good. They just have completely fallen off a cliff, and that's, well, thanks to what's on your screen right here. I mean, that's just factual stuff right there. Steel, let's sell the brand of living split screen where you and Pong Soul go for 4, 5, and sometimes even 6 hours where you get gameplay just like this in the background. You pull back all the way from that RTS view. You give it to people. Pause. Live and uncut, brother. Talk about living split screen, where they can subscribe to your YouTube channel. Catch it Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with Pong Soul, and more importantly, follow you on social media.
Well, let's start with that last bit right there. You can find me, Steel Rain. That's Steel Rain I. That T is a 7 everywhere. Google's probably the easiest place you can type that information in and get everything that you need. But I do frequent the streets of X, otherwise known as Twitter, and the Xbox ecosystem, just because it works so well between the PC and the console itself. Live a split screen every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UK time, is a non-console centric platform that covers everything going on within the gaming industry. But we are doing something a little bit different this week. Coming up on Friday, I know a lot of people are hyped for Astrobot out there, but me and my brother Paul Soul are going to be knee deep in some Space Marine 2. Early access begins this Thursday, which I may end up doing a PvP live stream for, just because I want to hold off that campaign gameplay for the Friday, because me and my brother Pong and possibly Mav from Fun Speculation is going to be doing campaign co-op for Space Marine. So check us out. It's already live on the channel, ready and prepped to go. So just check out that if you guys are interested. Maybe you're not sure about Space Marine. I've seen a lot of people saying, not a lot of people, but I saw some people on social media kind of saying, well, the first one was kind of generic and okay. Anyway, but not only that, but Saturday this week, we're also going to run it back for a second episode, at least, for Live and Split Screen. Instead of doing a show, we're going to do another live stream of Space Marine 2, probably wrapping up whatever we didn't get done in the campaign, and pushing through, and maybe getting some additional, some of that PvE content that they got in there, so knock out some of those missions, and overall just have a really good and fun time. So for anybody, if you're on the fence, if you're interested, come check out Live and Split Screen. Is going to be live on the channel. You'll be locked in and find out whether you want to jump into some Space Marine, which is also going to have tacked on multiplayer, which, again, you were talking about the 360 era boom earlier during the show. And look, Saber, Focus, they seem to be in that same thought process moment. Hey, unlike Naughty Dog, they didn't have to just become a full live service company to tack on a multiplayer to see if people are going to end up liking it. But nonetheless, now enough smoke. But again, greatly appreciate you, Boom. Fuzzy, is always a fantastic time to chop it up with you, brother. Greatly appreciate your opinions. And the same for you, Boom. And chat, man, y'all were on fire. Regardless if you agree with us, if you're having fun playing Concord, great. Look, I'm not here to police anybody, and I don't think anybody should police anybody's fun. But we should give our opinions and honest thoughts on what we are seeing on there out here and what we feel in the gaming community, just to put that authenticity out there that I like to see. So much love.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you being here, brother. Great points all around. And again, yes, if you're enjoying Concord, listen, I'm not going to pee in your cornflakes and tell you that it's not raining. No, it's fine. Enjoy it. We're just talking about the numbers. Again, you can't argue the numbers. You can have your opinion about the game, whether you believe that it's good or it's not. But listen, the numbers are the numbers, and it's something to have a conversation about. Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell the brand of your channel, of course, which is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre. You're also on a podcast, Friday Evenings with the Misses, where it covers the horror genre. So by all means, sell both brands. And where can people sub to them and follow you on social media?
As always, Boom, always greatly appreciate you having me on. Always a pleasure to be on a podcast with Steel Rain. Love your thoughts and takes and perspective on things. And same with you, Boom. Always love your positivity and your outlook on gaming and your genuine enjoyment with like Call of Duty multiplayer, which that goes to show everybody for this upcoming weekend. Definitely give it a try if you haven't given it a try this past
weekend. If we can
weekend.
get Boom, we can get anybody.
But for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. And if you have a bit of a horror side, as far as like you're into slashers, zombie movies, vampires, werewolves, things like that, definitely give my wife a follow at FerociousFee78 on Twitter, or on YouTube, just do a search for Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, and that's Fee Fi. For Friday night podcast we do at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday. We discuss a movie, not maybe the most mainstream movie, but there's some gems in there as far as some things you may find on Tubi, Netflix, or any of the streaming services, or even at like your local video store type of thing. But definitely give it a listen. Greatly appreciate all the support out there, and thank you guys so much for tuning into us, and enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend.
Hey.
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for checking out today's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. Again, if you enjoyed it, hit the like button before you get out of here. If you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. And a big shout out to all of the super chats that have come in today. Thank you so much for that, as well as the back end support through channel membership. Again, it really does help us do the big giveaways, and we have quite a few happening for the remainder of the year. Pretty big when it comes to our channel being the size it is. But we know, again, we just have to give back. It's just our way. And of course, enjoy the rest of your holiday. And this is where the Popo hat comes on. Please, folks, if you're going to drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. You will ruin your life as well as potentially somebody else's. But of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids, and he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.